Okay, it's a rainy Monday around here in Louisiana land, and I'm so excited that we're going to bring you some warm conversation about dishes and devotions. Welcome, Tammi Arender. I'm so glad to have you.
Beth, it is good to be with you. I'm excited.
I know this is good. Of course, we're both in Louisiana, and everybody here loves food. And so, congratulations on your book. It just came out the 21st, and it's already up there in Cajun cooking?
It is. It shocked me. Yeah, it's still considered a top release. And I haven't checked the last couple of days, but yeah, the number one in the Cajun Creole food and wine category.
I love that. I love that so very much because we do love our cooking around here. So, what's your favorite recipe in the book?
Do what now?
What's your favorite recipe in the book? I just have to know.
Oh, it's interesting because it's number one in the Cajun and Creole cooking, but I am more of a baker and pastry chef and cookie decorator. And there's all that in there. A huge section on desserts. But I'm also very good at a lot of the Cajun and Creole dishes. But my chapter on Cajun and Creole cooking is actually called the softer side of Cajun cooking, because don't yank my Louisiana card, but I don't do cayenne pepper. I don't. And because people are too heavy-handed with it. Now, actually, so let me be very accurate. I do use cayenne pepper, but I use a hint of it. So, because to me, if your mouth is on fire after the very first bite, it ruins the rest of the meal. Yeah. So I want flavor. And I want to be able to enjoy the whole meal. I also sometimes will not use it. Then I'll keep some panola pepper sauce on the table for folks that want to, kick it up a notch and have that spicy flavor. So yes, I do. I guess my shrimp and grits. Matter of fact, people who go out to eat with me and they want to order off a menu at a restaurant, they're like, oh, I'm going to get the shrimp and grits. I almost cringe because I'm like, well, I'm not going to order that here because I know I can make mine better. And I don't mean that conceited, but it's like, I'm not going to pay $25 or $30 at a restaurant and then be disappointed knowing I could have made it myself.
Well, that's so true. And grits come in many different ways. Mm-hmm. So
and mine are the cheesy grits. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can certainly understand that. So the devotions part of the book. So tell me about that, because that's a nice little twist on a book. We spend time in the kitchen, we've got family, we've got events, but you've added devotions. And so it's devotions and dishes. So tell me about that side of the book.
For several years, my main job has always been television. But radio always kind of pursued me. And so when I was in Nashville, I started working it was called Salem Music Network. And it was a Christian music network. I don't know, I think they serviced about 120 stations around the country. And the boss asked me, he said, would you be interested in doing these God thoughts, like little 30-second or 60-second little devotions on the radio? He said, do you want to write those and voice those and do it? And I said, yeah, I'll do that. Well, it ended up that so much of my God moments or life lessons came out of the kitchen. I mean, whether it's shrimp and grits or gumbo, you and I both know you can't rush it. There is a process. Yeah. I mean, I made the after Thanksgiving gumbo the other day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to eat it now, but I know better. Or to rush that roux, you have ruined it.
You gotta make a roux.
You gotta make a roux, or you gotta throw it out. You're through if it doesn't turn out right, and you can't rush it. But so a lot of my God thoughts were related to food and cooking and being in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And so I just kind of expanded on it. And I kept a notebook back when we kept notebooks and everything wasn't on a computer. And so I just, all of a sudden, before I knew it, I had just a pile of God thoughts. And so then, when social media, came around, well, every time I would make a dish and put my little, pictures out there on my little Taste of Tallulah page, that's where all my food pictures are. I would find a little devotion that went along with it. And interestingly enough, that is how Michelle found me, the publisher of the book. I did not know Michelle. Now, we both lived in Baton Rouge, and she followed me on TV, and then she started following me on social media. And then she reached out to me and she's like, have you ever thought about writing a book and doing a cookbook? This conversation went on for several years.
Yeah.
Years, because I'm like, me write a book? I knew I could talk a nose off a moose, but I thought, I don't know. And then the recipes and the cooking, you know, I was such a tomboy growing up. I was either on a horse, a three-wheeler, on the tractor with my daddy. I was outside. I was not in the kitchen. All right. Like I didn't learn my grandma's apron.
Yeah.
It was very late in life in Baton Rouge, of all things. Matter of fact, on a day much like today, too cold, too wet to get outside and do anything. Football was over at that time. Both LSU and the Saints season was over. And I thought, what am I going to do? And so I got in the kitchen and I had one of my grandmother's old cookbooks and I made homemade yeast rolls from scratch.
Wow.
And I just thought, yeah, well, I know. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to end up with hockey pucks and still have to go to the Village restaurant and get the bread that I was craving that day. But they turned out fantastic. I tell you that long story to tell you that was the light bulb moment to get into the cooking and the baking. And so I was already doing the God thoughts and the devotions. And so when Michelle kind of kept nudging me and then God was nudging me, I was like, you know, what about, because who needs another cookbook? I mean, if you go to a bookstore right now or you go online, I mean, you can go right now and get 1,000 recipes for one dish.
Yeah.
So I thought, what would make mine different and what would make a difference in someone's life? And so that was the purpose for me, is that it's not just good food. It's the devotions. It's letting you know there are life lessons, whether you're in the kitchen, at the store, at school, that God has a purpose for you. And that if you don't rush the process and do it in his time, you can make every day delicious.
So let's talk about that, because people really wrestle with the topic of purpose. You know, I want the telegram to come in the mail. God, send me an email, a text message. This is what you're supposed to do today. This is how your life is supposed to look. But God doesn't really do it like that, right? How do you help people? And you're a media person, so you've got a lot of influence. You've been on TV shows. You've been in movies. How do you help people when they ask you, man, how did you know what God called you to do? If they're really wrestling with that, what do you tell them?
I really actually go back to the cliche. If you do what you love, then you never have to work a day in your life. God gave everyone a skill set. I mean, like my mama used to pray, Lord, I hope she gets paid for talking. You know, well, guess what? I get paid for talking and writing because God did give me the gift of gab and to be a storyteller. And not everyone can do that. Your skill set may be different. And that's what I tell people, especially when I go talk. Matter of fact, right before I left Nashville, I got to go talk to a college class. And when I asked them, or do you want to be in front of the camera, behind the camera? You know, what do you want to do? Do you want to work at a newspaper? You want to do PR? There's so many different elements now of doing media, and especially with social media. And I'm like, pick out where your enthusiasm lies. Because God gave you that skill set for a reason. Use it for his glory. Not only are you going to be happier because you are living out your purpose, but you're also going to do a job that's having an influence on people and it's honoring God.
Yeah. So true, God does give a skill set, but isn't it also true that we have to develop that skill set? I mean, you don't wake up a famous chef. You don't wake up, hosting a TV show. You do little things along the way that help you edge towards that. So how important is it to be patient, kind of like cooking a roux? It takes a good long time. How important is the patience part of that? Because we want to hurry up and get it done and say we've arrived.
Right. Well, here's the beautiful thing about living in today's world. If you're a young person, your ability to learn something and hone that skill, whether it is you want to be on TV, then start studying the people that you think are good at being on TV. Yeah. If you want to be a chef, You know, if you start studying other people who are good at what they do, if you want to do that, because I remember, oh my goodness, you know, back in the day, starting out and watching the Walter Cronkites, again, people under 40 years old are not even going to know any of the names I would mention right now. So I'm not going to mention them because that would make me old as dirt. But you know what I'm saying? I became a student. Mm-hmm. Of people in my profession. So when I got the bug, and that was another thing, realize when I got the bug for baking and cooking, Food Network was on. You know, now YouTube, I guess, was probably around, but it wasn't what it is today. I mean, today you can learn anything. Yeah. But, you know, at the time I started watching, like if I was not on TV and at work, I was watching Food Network. Because I was going to learn from the best and learn how to do everything. And again, I had a passion for baking and desserts, and because I had a really bad sweet tooth. But then I realized, again, going back to, okay, what was I given in life? Guess what? I was raised in Louisiana. I came out of the womb knowing how to cook. I mean, I just didn't know it yet. It kind of lay dormant, you know? Yeah. And so you start learning from those around you and really become a student, listening and watching. Again, a lot of us want to rush it and go, oh, well, I know how to do that. Yeah. Oh, I know how to do that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it can be beginner's luck, because let me tell you, that first, you know, loaf of bread or yeast rolls that I made, yes, it did turn out great. Guess what? I had 3 loaves after that were hockey pucks. Yeah. But because now I thought, oh, well, I know what I'm doing, you know. Yeah. No, you need to always be willing to learn and listen and learn from those around you who have already kind of arrived, you know, so to speak.
And you're right. It is a great time to be able to study people, because the people we want to study, most of them, you can Google them, you can YouTube, you can TikTok, you can find those people. And so if you pick 2 or 3 people in your field that you dream to be in and study them, then you can still create your own little persona, so to speak. You didn't try to become the people that were on the Food Network, but you saw how their personality became part of their show. And then that helps you develop your own, correct?
Very correct. Because I remember in the beginning, I was a huge fan of Rachel Ray, you know, because she does not have a culinary degree, but yet she became, you know, very, very famous as a chef. But it wasn't just because she taught herself how to cook. It was her personality. Mm-hmm. And I thought, again, I'm going to take my little Southern Louisiana, you know, funny sayings, because it's just part of my vocabulary. Right. And I thought, and then I learned from the cooking side. This was the other thing, because I did have to become a student, especially in baking, because baking is a science. Mm-hmm. You know, where a lot of people, especially our grandmas and great grandmas, it was a pinch of this and a pinch of that, and you just eyeballed everything. And they did with their breads and their sweets too, but really and truly, baking is a science. So you really have to kind of pay attention to what you're doing. But I learned in this last 25 years of studying food and recipes and famous chefs, what I can tweak, what I can change, and what I can't. More importantly, what I can't. And that, again, it goes back to a life lesson. I've learned as much in the kitchen when I fail at a recipe, you know, when I tried something new and I risked it and I thought, that missed the mark. That didn't taste good, or that's not the right texture. Well, so you learn by what you do wrong, right, as much as what you do right. Yeah. And so I really believe in having patience, not rushing it, and studying people that really know what they're doing, and then still experiment, because it is okay, right, to make a mistake. I tell everybody, mistakes don't break you. Mistakes make you who you are.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about your media background, because that really certainly led to the book that you've just released. You've been in TV shows, you've been news media, you've been in movies. What's that been like for you, and how did you get into that? Because I think that's, you can't have been just comfortable showing up for auditions. You had to step out of your comfort zone and say, hey, I want to do that. So I'm going to do what it takes to try to do that. And then you did that. So what is that in stepping out of your comfort zone that's important in the life lessons category?
Well, I've known since I was 16 what I wanted to do. Now, I say that because I've done, radio and TV news all my life. I actually did want to do sports first because I was such a football fan. But back then, you didn't have ESPN. You didn't have women in sports. Mm-hmm. And so when I walked into the TV station here in Monroe at KNOE, Ken Booth was the news director. And I literally just walked in off the street because, again, I prayed about it. I was a sophomore at ULM. And I just felt God saying, go do it. And so sure enough, I literally just walked in the front door. Of course, now everybody's locked up like, Fort Knox. You can't do that these days. But, and Ken Booth, I didn't know him from Adam's House Cat and vice versa. But the secretary, the lady receptionist at the beginning, she said, well, the sports director's not here. You want to see the news director? And honey, that literally started my career that day. He had his cowboy boots on the table, cigarette. I mean, again, it's a whole different time, okay? But he takes a big drag on that cigarette and he looks at me and he said, Tammi, I don't know why I'm hiring you, but I am. And I said, well, I know why. I said, because God told me to walk in here. And that's God's honest truth. I mean, that happened. So that was in 1981. Don't do the math. But then, so I've worked in Little Rock, and then I came to Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge was actually, at the time, Baton Rouge was my dream. I had a good friend here that I worked with at KNOE, Leo Honeycutt. Leo had come to WBRZ in Baton Rouge. And I wanted to be in Baton Rouge. And so sure enough, a few years after working in Monroe, pretty much the same thing. God said, go. And so I did the morning show Tune In with Leo for about 5.5 years. Well, then I was praying about going to Nashville because as a family, we didn't take a lot of vacations. My daddy was a farmer, so he didn't, when it was vacation time for him, it was winter, and he just went to the woods. So we would have a few weeks or a week or two in the summer before the soybeans got ready, the cotton got ready, that we would go somewhere, and it was usually to see a sister of his. But occasionally we would come to Tennessee, because there was a theme park in Nashville called Opryland Theme Park. It was like a mini Disney World. Mm-hmm. And of course, we were huge country music fans. And I fell in love with Nashville. And kind of like if you hear Lainey Wilson tell her story, about how at 9 years old, they had gone to a vacation in East Tennessee. And she's like, y'all need to drive me through Nashville. I just want to see Nashville. She was 9 years old. In the backseat of that car, they're driving through downtown Nashville. And Lainey said, I'm going to live here one day. I swear to you, I'm not making it up. My story is almost identical to that. We went to Nashville and when I was a kid, and I was like, I'm going to live here one day. I'm going to live here one day. And so after working in Baton Rouge, I know it's a long story, but I actually quit my job, not making this up. Talk about a God thing. God has always been my agent. I had tried to get a job in Nashville by sending resumes and resume tapes and all that kind of stuff. Nobody would give me the time of day. So finally, I just quit. I quit my job in Baton Rouge at WBRZ, sold a house, a Harley Davidson, and everything I owned to move to Nashville to not be a country music singer, but to work in TV. And God, it was crazy. I spent about 6 weeks. I was about to be down at the soup kitchen because, God doesn't ever do anything in a hurry. Yeah. Even though I knew he told me to move there and go there, I had complete peace about it. It was down to my last dollar before I got a call from the NBC station there in Nashville. So that's how that happened. But then I moved back to Baton Rouge because, again, Louisiana's home. And so I needed to be near family. And that's how the movie thing happened. I was back at WBRZ. And crazy thing, if you recall, they shot the movie Dukes of Hazzard in Baton Rouge.
Yep.
All right. Well, of course, I was wanting to do a story on it. I reached out to the publicist for the movie, wanted to do a story on it. The answer was always no, it's a closed set. I just kept getting that answer. And I'm like, dang it. So, of course, one night watching the competition, after I've had several requests to do a story on it, watching the competition at the time, it was Avery Davidson, which Avery and I are dear friends now. He did a story from the set of Cooter's Garage. I think it was up in Clinton. It was either Clinton or Jackson. And honey, I called that publicist. I was so mad. I'm like, what do you mean you let Avery Davidson in there and you've been telling me no? And so he's like, he just showed up. He knew the person that owned the property and he just showed up before we could get him out of there. Crazy thing, about 2 days later, that same publicist called me and he said, Tammy, do you want to be a reporter in the movie? And I'm like, what? And he said, we have a parade scene with Burt Reynolds up in Zachary. And actually, it turned out to be a day kind of like we're having today, rainy, cold. And of course, Baton Rouge is not, and Zachary especially, is not a, what do you call that? An extra kind of town. There aren't people sitting around waiting to spend all day to sit on a movie set, right?
Right.
Well, they were expecting hundreds of people to make it look like a parade route, right? Like 10 people showed up.
Not good.
And so the director of the movie was like, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this look like a parade scene? And that's when they said, find us a reporter. We'll put those 10 people behind the reporter and Burt Reynolds, and it'll look like we got a crowd. So that's how the publicist made it up to me, is I got to be the reporter in Dukes of Hazzard, which then led to me getting my SAG card. And since then, I've now been in 14 movies, mainly as a reporter. So let's not say I'm an actress. In 12 of those 14 movies, I've been either a reporter or an anchor. So obviously, it's not really a stretch. Now, in 2 of them, one I was an attorney, and then the other one actually I shot in Baton Rouge with Eric Roberts and Billy Zane. What was it called? Enemies Among Us. I was a reporter in that movie. But the reporter, it wasn't your token, oh, here we are in front of the scene and 2 sentences and you're off the screen. The reporter in Enemies Among Us was part of the storyline.
Yeah.
And so I did have to act in that. Anyway, so that's
so to get to all the things you've gotten to do, you've had to put yourself in situations to where you earned the right to get to do what you've gotten to do. So all that to say is, while God may call you to do something and he may gift you to do something, you still got to do the work, show up, be ready if you get a no. You got a lot of no's, but you stayed with it. And I think that's the key thing to whether you're making a roux or you're trusting God with something, because it's going to take patience. Whatever you plant, you got to harvest. And I think your story is says that basically. You've had to step out and put yourself in crazy places, show up in places nobody knew you were coming, but then walk through the door and ask for something to happen, and things happen.
I tell everybody, matter of fact, I made the analogy around Thanksgiving that somebody in the family was going to sacrifice sleep to get up and cook that turkey or that brisket or that pork tenderloin, because low and slow is the way to go, right? And the marinade is part of it, and it needs to sit in that marinade. And lots of times in life, we're sitting on the sidelines, and God is just marinating our miracle. But here's the deal: while we're marinating, we can't just sit there and do nothing. All right. For our miracle to happen, God expects us to participate. Right. It's not a magic wand. We want God to be the fairy godmother and go, ping. Yeah. That's not how God works. And that's not how
you pushed your button. Unmute yourself.
Boy, I accidentally hit that. I am so sorry.
That's okay. But God is marinating. I'm moving my hands. Well, I think that sometimes God is marinating your miracle, and we're waiting on the food to be done. And we're beep beep beep. Okay, ready. But I think that it's so important that you can't fast forward faith. And I think a lot of times We want to do that. So let's go to the book.
Okay.
So show the book. You've got it right there. You got your first copy. Look at that. It's so pretty.
First time, I literally saw it for the first time an hour ago. Not making that up.
Isn't that
I
fun?
have struggled to get in my copies. And this is a hardcover. They're both in hardcover and paperback. And Michelle and I have gone back and forth on this because I told her and this is going to make me cry, because it was an emotional thing.
Oh, it is.
Because it's not only that I want to share the devotions and what God's done in my life, it's also my stories, you know, and I think everybody's story matters.
Everybody
really does. Whether you've done TV or not, that's just my job. Yeah. Everybody's story matters. And what was important to me about this book is that I did a friends and family section. And because I wanted those people who had made my life delicious along the way, I wanted them in it, and I wanted our story in it and their story in it. And a few people that I reached out to, they're like, I don't cook. I don't have a recipe. And I said, you eat, so you have a dish. What is your favorite dish? I'll come up with the recipe. I'll make it. But you have been a part of my life. And actually, Beth, interestingly enough, there are two people in that friends and family section that right before this went to print, we became estranged. We had arguments that were very divisive. And one of those, you just have to agree to disagree and go your separate ways. And but right before this came out, God restored one of those relationships, and it was truly was God. And so when I picked this book up and I read that, I'm just like, thank you, God, that I left those stories in there, because whether that person agrees with me today or not, you love them, you love me,
and they're part of your story.
Each other. Yeah, and move on. So it's as much about the story. So I do want people to know that this is my heart in written form, and it's God is woven through all of it.
Yeah, and it's called Dishes and Devotions.
Make every day delicious.
Make every day delicious.
Yes, it's called Dishes and Devotions. Make every day delicious. And I know that's a long title, but I don't know. I just wanted people to know that with Jesus and good food and good friends and family, every day, even a difficult day, can be delicious. Yeah. If you've got those things. And so I just really hope that that's what people get out of this, is that friends, family, God, faith, and good food are so important.
I love it. I love that all of that went into that. And I hope that it's already been a success, and I hope that it continues to be a success. So people can get it on Amazon as well as Tammi Arender official.com.
I think we'll have to double check. I know Michelle was working on getting the website set up where you can order directly. I also I'm starting to get some book signings on the calendar. If I can get my books in again, I literally have one. Yeah. Actually, that's not true. I have two. Because when I ordered off the Amazon, I thought, well, let me go ahead and order two. But anyway, so I ordered one like everybody else. And what was funny is my friends in Baton Rouge, they got theirs yesterday. I'm like, how did you get yours before me?
I know.
But anyway, it's been fun to kind of see everybody tag me and all that. But what I'm going to say is there will be a book signing in Monroe. There's going to be a book signing in Baton Rouge, hopefully in a few weeks, and a book signing in Nashville. Because I do still fill in at RFD-TV, the Agriculture Network, where I was working full time before I moved back to Monroe. And like I say, Nashville was part of my life for a long, long time. So I've got some dear friends there that are part of the book. And awesome. So if everybody wants to follow me, I'm at my friend limit on Facebook. So you have to go to the personality page. You have to go to the Tammi Arender News personality, because I can't add any more friends. I don't know why Facebook does that.
I know.
And then all my food stuff. And I always hate to use the word food porn when you're a Christian. That just sounds terrible. But you know what I'm talking about when I say that, right? Yeah. So is at Taste of Tallulah, because Tallulah, Louisiana is where I was raised. So those are the ways to find me.
That is awesome. So let me know when you come to Baton Rouge. I'm gonna come get a book signed. But
okay.
And everybody, everybody be sure and follow both of our YouTube pages. She has one, I have one. Follow us on social media. Us small business people, we really depend on the feedback and the interaction from other people. So we're really grateful for that. We're grateful for every book sold, mine and hers. So thank you all so much, because you know we're a little fish in a big ocean, but we're swimming on as
we are. I can't wait to get your book.
I know. Well, Tammi, thank you so much for joining me. Good luck with your book. I'm so excited, and I hope it's super, super successful. And we'll definitely come back around, and I will try a fun recipe at some point.
Oh, we ought to get in the kitchen. That would be fun.
That would be
fun. We could have a fun time in the kitchen.
Oh, I can tell you we would have fun. So we'll come back around and do that. So
okay.
Everybody have a great Monday. Stay warm, stay dry. At least in our part of the country, it's wet and cold. But everybody have a great week.
Bye.